Maintenance, periodic inspection. The SPS2 breaker has been designed for very low maintenance. Actual inspection frequency depends on installation site, weather and atmospheric conditions, experience of operating personnel, and special operating conditions. Because of this, a well-planned and effective maintenance program depends largely on experience and practice. A periodic inspection should be made in accordance to the schedule in the manual. This includes a visual inspection for corrosion and loose hardware, mechanical operations for timing, and verification of controls. The general condition of the breaker should be noted. Check the hold-down bolts and ground connections. Check all wires and connections inside the control cabinet. Check for loose hardware. Check the heaters for proper operation. Visually check the operator mechanism for loose hardware and any oil leaks from the trip and close dampers. Perform open, close, and open, close, open operations to ensure satisfactory operation of the mechanism. Maintenance, pole unit inspection. A pole unit inspection requires the removal of the gas from the breaker and opening the pole unit to determine the condition of the contacts and insulating components. This inspection should be performed according to the schedule in the manual, or if a number of operations as a function of fault or switching current exceed the permissible values identified in the chart in the instruction manual. Maintenance, opening the pole units. Remove the breaker from service and place it in the open position. Ensure that both opening spring and closing spring are both discharged. Remove the SF6 gas from the breaker through the fill valve. To remove the linkage cover, you'll need to loosen the bolts at each pole unit location. Pull directly out and the cover should slide away. Disconnect and plug the SF6 copper manifold from the pole unit to be opened. This isolates an individual pole and allows opening the pole unit without contaminating the rest of the breaker. Maintenance, removing stationary contact module. Remove the terminal plate bolts. Raise the terminal plate bushing conductor approximately 3 inches above the top of the bushing and lock in place. The stationary contact module can now be removed by removing the 8 flange bolts that attach the stationary end cover to the right-hand end of the pole unit casting. Insert the guidance pins and pull the module out horizontally, being careful not to damage the Teflon nozzle attached to the moving contact. Visually inspect the arcing contact. Replacement is required if the contact is eroded. Minor pitting, however, can be smoothed with a fine file. Inspect the continuous current fingers. If copper is visible, replacement is required. If either of these mechanisms need replacing, the entire stationary contact module must be replaced. Maintenance, stationary contact maintenance and installation. To perform maintenance on the stationary contact, first clean the stationary contact module with alcohol and a lint-free wipe before assembly. Vacuum the arc dust from the pole unit housing. Use a small nozzle to vacuum the inside of the stationary contact support. Install a new O-ring coated with Dow Corning 111 on the pole unit housing. Coat the pole unit flange with Kluber LR44-21. Then coat the contact cup and the arching pin with Beacon 325. Insert the stationary contact assembly into the pole unit, being careful not to damage the moving contact nozzle. Lubricate the bolts with zinc anti-seize and torque to 50 foot-pounds. Remove the block and install the bushing conductor terminal plate, being careful that the conductor engages the contact cup. Install and torque to 29 foot-pounds. Maintenance, moving contact inspection. The moving contact nozzle and arcing contact can be inspected without removal from the pole unit casting once the stationary contact has been removed. Maintenance, removing the moving contact, 40 kiloamp breakers and below. Remove the ruptured disc cover and ruptured disc from the end housing on the left-hand end of the pole unit. Remove the linkage assembly and spin lever to gain access to pin. pin and disconnect the composite operating rod from the shaft lever. Pull the moving contact out of the moving contact support from the stationary contact side of the pole unit. Inspect the Teflon nozzle for wear. Inspect the arcing contact for erosion. Inspect the heat cylinder for arc pitting from the continuous current fingers. Maintenance. Reinstalling the moving contact assembly. Apply a thin coat of Centoplex around the heat cylinder. Install the moving contact in the contact support. Rotate the heat cylinder in the contact support in the counterclockwise direction to align the operating rod with the shaft lever in the end housing. Install the pin that connects the operating rod to the lever. Tighten the bolts and torque to 5.9 foot-pounds. Maintenance. Bushing replacement. Place the straps around the bushing and pull straps taut to support bushing once bolts are loosened. Now loosen the bolts inside the can. Next, lift out pole unit and carefully lift the bushing. Then clean the bushing flange with alcohol and coat the conductor rod with Beacon 325. Clean pole unit flange with alcohol and prepare a new O-ring with Dow Corning 111. Then apply a thin coat of Kluber. Sling the bushing so that it hangs at approximately at the same angle as an installed bushing. The position of the sling on the bushing will vary with the weight of the bushing. Slowly lower the bushing in place. Ensure that the conductor seats firmly into the contact cup. Prepare the bolts with zinc anti-seize. Install in the bushing flange, torque to 51 foot-pounds. Pull plug and reconnect gas manifold. Maintenance. Filling an energized breaker with SF6 gas. The preferred method of adding SF6 gas to the breaker is with the breaker de-energized and isolated from the electrical system. However, SF6 gas may be added to an energized breaker if the pressure has not fallen below lockout. The procedure for adding gas is the same as for filling the breaker during installation. Maintenance. Rupture disc molecular sieve replacement. After removing the ruptured disc and discard the used desiccant material that is located inside the end housing under the ruptured disc cover. Remove the new desiccant from its foil pouch and replace inside the end housing. Apply Kluber to flange. Install the rupture disc and gasket, paying attention to the flow direction arrow on the rupture disc. Replace the rupture disc cover and torque the bolts to 29 foot-pounds. The pole unit should be evacuated with a vacuum pump to 2 millimeters of mercury, beginning within 15 minutes. Maintenance. Leak checking. The breaker has been thoroughly leak tested at the factory and designed to be leak-free. The O-rings, gaskets, and fittings provide the sealing to atmosphere to each phase. Use any suitable equipment to detect leaks. No leakage is permitted at any of the joints. During maintenance, if any seal has been removed, that seal should be leak-checked after a vacuum has been obtained and SF6 added to the pole unit. Maintenance. Replacing the mechanism. First, place the breaker in the open position and remove all power to the operator and discharge both the opening and closing springs. Remove cabinet doors by lifting them off their hinges and remove the 12 bolts securing the cabinet cover and remove the cover setting it aside. Remove the pole unit linkage covers and the bolt and pin to disconnect the operating rod from pole unit A. Disconnect the operating rod from the operator by removing the clip and pin. Then cut the motor wires. Then remove the cable clamps securing the control wires and the mounting plates to the trip and close solenoids. Disconnect the auxiliary switch linkage pin from the operator. Remove the 2 bolts and the auxiliary switch linkage bracket from the operator. Label and then remove the control wires from the motor switch. Install the lifting plate on top of the operator. Hook the lifting chain in the eye and engage the wrench to create tension on the chain. Then remove the 4 mounting bolts from the rear of the cabinet and lift the operator. It will be necessary to rotate it during the lift. Lift the new operator into position and bolt it in place. Reconnect all control wires and linkages and tighten all bolts to the specifications given in the instruction manual. Maintenance, service and adjustment of the operator mechanism. No adjustment of the operator mechanism is required. User serviceable parts are limited to the replacement of the motor, the close and trip solenoids only. Maintenance, motor installation and replacement in the operator mechanism. Cut the motor wires. Remove the retaining ring and washer from the motor gear shaft. Support the motor and remove the motor mounting plate screws. Lower the motor from the mechanism. If the gear is to be fitted on the new motor, drive out the roll pin and remove the gear. Remove the motor from the mounting plate. Assemble the new motor to the mounting plate. Install mounting plate screws and torque to 6 foot-pounds. If required, install the gear on the new motor using the roll pin. Install the new motor. Torque the mechanism screws to the mounting plate to 15 foot-pounds. Reinstalling the motor will likely dislocate the drag brake segments. Insert the brakes properly and snap the springs in place. Install the washer and retaining ring on the end of the motor gear shaft. Crimp the new motor wires to the control circuit. Maintenance, close and trip solenoid installation and replacement.
iStock Audio.
Before proceeding, discharge the opening and closing springs and disconnect the control circuits.
iStock Audio.
Remove the solenoid mounting plate and solenoid to be replaced. Set the plunger on the solenoid to be installed to 0.890 plus or minus 0.012 inches using the adjusting nut and jam nut. Assemble the solenoid to the mounting plate in the proper position.
iStock Audio.
Torque the solenoid mounting bolts to 27-inch pounds. Reconnect the control wires and secure with a small bolt. Reattach the solenoid and mounting plate to the mechanism. Torque the mounting plate bolts to 71-inch pounds.